It's time to dad.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Time to Dad, a podcast by dads for dads. My name is Alex, and this is a very special episode. It's going to be our very first Father's Day podcast. And to kick it off, we're going to talk about our very first, or maybe our most memorable Father's Day to each and every one of us. So, anybody want to take point and talk about their most memorable Father's Day experience?
I think I could set the bar pretty low coming up the gate and say that I don't have a ton of memorable Father's Days in my past, mainly because Father's Day for me is just as low key as possible. I don't want any big stuff going on, any big events. I don't have to wrangle kids. I just want to chill. And I'm sure in my younger fatherhood years, I probably failed my own Father's Day. I'm sure I used to drink a lot. So I'm sure there were some days where I wasn't my shining best version of myself, shall I say. But other than that...
So you think.
Eh?
I said, so you think. Who knows?
I'm pretty sure.
Just say, it might have been good for others if you were acting a fool and getting crazy.
That could be true. I can't deny that. That's for sure. What about you guys? What have been your most memorable Father's Days?
I would say my most memorable for myself personally would probably be the first Father's Day. Having an older stepdaughter, we celebrated Father's Days obviously prior to my son being born. But I think that the first Father's Day after he was born, when it really kind of hit me, and I was like, oh shit, I'm a dad now. So I would say that first one after my son was born was a pretty memorable one. And it wasn't really memorable in the sense that we did anything crazy or, my wife went overboard or anything. It was just in my mind, the one that I just always kind of look back on when it kind of clicked, that I was like, damn, like you got to step it up. You're a dad now. So that's probably my most memorable.
Mm.
And mine was pretty similar to Luke as far as, even growing up, being with my dad, and my mom and dad would never make a huge deal out of Father's Day. It was always just a really chill day. That's kind of what he wanted, was to relax, and, we might go to a friend's house and hang out or something like that. And same thing for me, with the kids. I want to just hang out with them. We might go to breakfast or something like that, and then, or grill or something like that, but real mellow and just chill out for the day. And that's to me, that's a big difference between Father's Day and Mother's Day, right? I think most of the guys that I know, it's like they want that just quiet time, just make it a quiet day where no expectations and just relax, versus, the Mother's Day, I think we all put a lot of effort in planning and trying to make it special. It's just a very different.
Doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. What about you, Joe?
I definitely agree with that. I think most of the time it's just chill. I mean, I do like getting together with people. I have a very close family. Grew up, with 3 older brothers, and actually we get together. My family and we all go to my parents every single Friday. So any chance there's a time when we could get together for holidays or anything like that, that is always something that we'll try to do. Whether it's Father's Day, Mother's Day, we'll celebrate a different day, give my mother something, but and then our own families individually now. But my most memorable, I think, just like Nick said, it was the first one, and it wasn't a good one. It was just the first one, and I know it should be good, but it was 3 weeks after my son was born, about 3 weeks, and he had some crazy stomach issues that we went for months and months trying to figure out, taking the different GIs and things like that, trying to figure out what was going on. And it was just Father's Day. We were supposed to go to my brother's house. And as we were getting dressed, it was just yelling at the house and crying and crying from not just the little guy. It was a rough day. He slept literally 4 or 5 minutes throughout the whole day, no naps. We did get one picture that was me holding him outside in little shirts like that. We both were smiling at that point. I don't know if our eyes were puffy from crying the rest of the day because it was a rough one. So that was definitely memorable because it's probably the only Father's Day that I vividly remember. We've had another one since then, but that one sticks out. And now it was like, oh, remember the first one? This is me and my wife. Oh, remember the first one? I'm like, oh God, don't remind me. So that was not the best kickoff to Father's Day fatherhood, but it could have been worse, I guess, right? It could be worse. So, or it could only get better.
Yeah.
So, but that was, I think everybody has some, stories like that, I'm sure.
So sorry, I didn't know if you were done, Joe. I'm sorry for cutting you off if you weren't done.
You're fired.
Shocking.
I'm fired now. I've only had one Father's Day so far. So not the only thing that made my first Father's Day special was obviously, you guys know I have twins, so it's like double Father's Day, I guess. I don't know. But what made it very special and memorable was something that my wife did, and it was just a very simple post, shouting out her dad and me. And her dad, like, she holds him in very high regard. I do as well. He's a very, very good man and a fantastic father-in-law. So the fact that, like, I was at his level, because my dad, I've never mentioned it to you guys, but my dad passed like 8 years ago. So I don't have anybody else to be like, oh, you're the same as this guy. So now here comes my wife posting a picture of me and her dad just shouting us out, like, shout out to the two best dads I have in my life. And I was like, dude, that was so freaking like I'm almost like emotional about it. Like I'm like fighting back real emotions because of it. But I'm just like, dude, that is awesome. Like hell yeah, dude. Like I am now at the same level as that guy.
Yeah, my wife does she does the sappy post too. I'm not big. I mean, I'll occasionally post on Facebook, but yeah, she doesn't miss like a Father's Day or any kind of shout out. When I finally finish something on the honeydew list, she posts those. So yeah, those are always pretty cool when you come across them.
Yeah.
So that's our memorable Father's Days. So I mean, kind of along the same lines, anybody want to share kind of any motivational or memorable moments that from their childhood or even from now of being around their fathers and with their fathers?
I think for me, it's like my dad, when I was a kid, was not the picture perfect dad. Like he worked a lot. He had a steakhouse. He was always away for drinking and having a party. But he passed away a year ago at the end of this month. And I'd say the last 10, 15 years of his life, he became the best version of being a dad kind of thing. We really bonded and made amends for any sort of past issues we may have had with each other. But I think it was just a good example of it's never too late. So don't cut someone out. Give them the chance and you could be surprised. Not to get all serious on you guys.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think everybody probably has some sour patches at some point in their life with probably both their parents, not just their dads. I know dads tend to be the stricter ones, so you butt heads a little more with them sometimes, but that's pretty status quo, at least in the group of people that I know. Is there's always some sort of hiccup, but like you said, as long as you don't just write it off right away, you can hopefully work through those things. Or
we're dads for the rest of our kids' life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So my dad didn't stop being a dad once I became an adult. If anything, he related to me better as an adult because I'm much like him. Like when the kids are real little, I don't have a whole lot in common going on there. Yeah. But when I got older and I'm now a man and an adult, he and I just connected better. And then it was a much more two-way relationship for us kind of thing. So if your dad was a shitty dad as a kid or, not perfect, you never know, you might really step up when you're an adult and need it most.
Yeah, I think that's a big topic too. Like where almost as a kid, sometimes you don't know how good of a dad somebody was or how bad of a dad somebody was, maybe until you get to adulthood, right? Because you don't realize certain things. And I think we've talked about it sometimes, is we don't realize maybe what they sacrificed or, what they did until we get older. So, like I know for like myself as a young kid, like my dad would try to show me something like with a car or something. I was like, if it wasn't like sports or a video game, it just didn't matter. Right. And none of that mattered. But then as you get older, right, you realize like the things that maybe they tried or you wish you would have gone back and done. It's like, oh, wow, no, he did do that. It was just me, right? Or, oh, no, he did that too, but that was me, right? And kind of just changing in that scenario, but I think that changes a lot based off the person's, I guess, maybe the relationship you had as a kid and then, as you get older.
And
Sure.
once you become a dad, you realize just how damn hard it is being a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and how easy your buttons can be pushed, or you hit that tipping point where between the workday and whatever the hell your kid's doing, it's easy to hit that code red area real fast.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a kid, at least for me, I saw my dad as this kind of, statue is not the right word, but as the same person who does not continue to grow throughout his life, right? And so, but it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, wow, we all continue to grow and change as we get older, right? But as a kid, you look at them and just say, well, that's my dad, that's the person he'll always be. But they grow and they change, as well. And I mean, I didn't realize to the extent of that until I started going through some of that stuff, right? I mean, the person I am now is not the same person I was 15 years ago, and they go through a lot of that as well.
You just sorry, you sparked a memory. I don't remember what I was watching. It might have been some weird ad on the radio, but there was actually somebody said something like, you with your first kid you grow up with them, but you raise your second kid. And that, I think that kind of speaks to what you're saying, where you go through a lot of growing pains and growing as an individual when you become a parent. And by the second kid, you've already kind of gone through that growth spurt as an adult, and you're more focused on raising that kid, which I thought was pretty interesting little phrase that they threw out there.
Yeah.
What if you only have one?
Well, then you
get busy.
Yeah.
What if you had two at a time?
Well,
because I think me and Joe are the exceptions.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. You learn twice as fast, I guess.
You can have shot.
No kidding, twice as fast because you have no other choice.
No, that's you're straight feet to the fire with that.
Dude, trial by fire, baptism by fire. Yep, 100%, 100%. I don't really have a memorable story like you guys have. I have a little bit of a different take on this whole topic, or subject that we're talking about at the moment. The most memorable memory, maybe not most. I guess let me rephrase that. Like the one thing that I learned about my dad was that he loved and appreciated life and nature and all that good stuff. So one day, me and my dad were doing some yard work in the front of the house, just trimming smaller plants, just taking out weeds. And there's this little tree in the corner of my mom's house. I couldn't tell you what it is. For the life of me, I don't know what it is. It's very small. It has orange flowers, and they're kind of deep. And for some reason, that tree attracts hummingbirds, lots of little hummingbirds. So one day, my dad is cleaning up this tree and trimming the branches, and he's like, "Well, it's a little bit overgrown. It's not very big, but let's trim it up anyway." So my dad does the trimming that he thinks looks right to him, puts the whatever little branches to the side, and thinks nothing of it. He moves on to the next tree next to that smaller tree, and he starts trimming. And then all of a sudden, there's a small hummingbird that flies around where he's at. And he's like, okay, that was weird. Same hummingbird comes back literally 2 minutes later, and he's hovering around that smaller tree. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And I was just so confused because I'd never seen any of this behavior in any little animal ever. So then my dad stops and thinks, well, this is the second time this little hummingbird has come. So let me check the branches. Sure enough, he finds the tiniest freaking nest. And he says, oh, dude, like I could just see the look that he, like, for lack of a better word, he knew he fucked up, right? He's like, damn it. Like, I just ruined this little bird's life. Hopefully, like,
he cut the
eggs are
branch?
not messed up. He cut the branch that had the nest. So my dad tries his best, and he picks up the little nest, looks at as best as he can without crushing it, right? And he's like, oh man. So he puts it back in the tree, and he's hoping for the best. And thankfully, like, a few days later, my dad saw the hummingbird just fixing the nest, I guess, attaching it a little bit better to the tree. So it kind of worked out. And ever since then, I've had this weird fascination with hummingbirds, and I even got a tattoo in sort of
Nice.
remembrance of my dad for that reason.
Oh wow.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's a very special moment that I didn't understand at the moment from my dad. Like I said, he loved life, and he appreciated nature, and he loved all forms of life, and he respected them as well. So he was just like a very interesting person in that regard. So that, I guess, is my story regarding this.
Very
know, it's
cool.
Funny you mentioned the hummingbird. It reminded me of a story that when I was little, we had a sunroom, and this is related to my dad as well. But it was I was out in the sunroom, and a hummingbird had gotten inside the house, and it was inside this room. And I don't know, I was probably 8 or 9 or something like that. And I'm doing everything I can to catch this hummingbird and to get it outside. And I'm just getting irritated with it. And I finally asked my dad, I was like, Dad, can you help with this? And he comes into the sunroom, and literally this hummingbird is buzzing around. He just reaches up, boom, first try, grabs it straight out of the air. And instantly I was like, my dad is a hero. He just like went way crazy up. I was like, oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. But, total luck in hindsight, obviously. But I just thought, man, he just instantly went up to superhero
Well,
status.
Mr. Miyagi style right there.
Yeah, totally, totally.
It's funny you mentioned birds. We I don't remember how long it was, but after my dad passed, somehow my mom and sister ended up at something where a medium was talking, and they really, like, I guess she connected with some people in the audience, and my sister and my mom felt kind of moved by it to the point where they were like, well, she does like private consultation. And so somehow they talked me into going with them or whatever. And we're sitting there talking to her. And as soon as we walk in, I'm like, man, this is some BS. Like, I'm not going to buy anything this lady says. And I forget exactly how she worded it, but she had basically said, like, my dad was trying to figure out a way that he could communicate to me that, he was there, he's watching over me. And she asked if, like, she mentioned that my dad thought, oh, well, maybe I'll come as a bird or whatever. And then she was like, well, no, now he's telling me, like, you wouldn't give a shit, like, you wouldn't pay attention to if a bird came up. So that's how it kind of ties into birds. But long story short, I was out here in my workshop just working one day, and out of nowhere, this dog just kind of walked up into my shed and just sat down. It was like chilling. Never seen the dog before. And he came in, and she, long story short, again, she basically said that he decided he'd come as a dog. And so I was just kind of like, what? Like, yeah. And I don't know if it was coincidence, but it was just kind of weird that this dog, and he had to come through the gate. The gate wasn't open all the way. So he snuck back here and just came right in and just sat down and stared at me like we had been best pals.
How long after was that?
This was actually before I went to see her. So it's not like she planted the seed of, oh, a dog's going to come and visit you. And I was like, oh, this is the dog. It was kind of like hindsight that I was like, oh crap, maybe that was what was going on. So that was kind of weird. But if you're ever into, like, want to get into some weird stuff, some of the stuff that came out of the meeting with that lady was really kind of chilling. She knew a lot of stuff, and it wasn't the kind of stuff that you could lurk like a Facebook profile or public information and find out. Like some of it was really deep stuff that, you know, not even, you know, my sister or my mom and I had talked about with each other, the kind of stuff that she was talking about. So it's pretty cool. That's kind of another Father's Day memory, I guess. But I think my other most memorable thing with my dad would probably be when we were kids, to kind of make ends meet. He would do woodworking, and he built every holiday season. He'd make these little wooden reindeer, some that stood up, some that attached to your mailbox, whatnot. But whenever I'm like out here woodworking or making something for my wife or whatever I'm doing, you know, with my hands, I kind of have this flashback of he had this long kind of like barn type shed with his tools in it. And I can just picture myself like bundled up in a jacket, just sitting right outside the door to the workshop. And there's lighting. The lighting in there was terrible, but there was, you know, sawdust flying everywhere. And so I can kind of picture him in that glow, putting those reindeer together, and him kind of, you know, I was too young to participate, but at the same time, he kind of wanted me to see that side of his life, and that's kind of inspired me to do woodworking as well. And so anytime I do something with my hands, I kind of try to get my son involved. Even if he's just going to watch me for 2 seconds, I try to bring him around so he can, you know, he can decide for himself if it's something cool he wants to watch. And sometimes he uses tools till they scare the crap out of him. Like he used my impact gun the other day when I was doing my brakes, and he said, "Ouch!" And I was like, "Well, it didn't hurt you, but it, you know, impact guns shake pretty good when they're working." So it scared the poop out of him. But those.
Can I tell you how crazy all of this conversation that we kicked off based on my story? Because now I have a story about something that my dad
do go, because I feel like I've been talking too long. So
no. So my dad played keyboard. Hey guys, a serious story here. Quit laughing. So my dad used to play keyboard in this band, and like they played music in Spanish, and it was all like popular music of the time. But I remember him like practicing in like storage units before, because we lived in apartments, we'd have a place to practice. And I remember as a kid watching my dad at a storage place practice, and if it wasn't there, it was at home, and he would use a boombox, play music, and just play by ear, just practice everything by ear. And once he got it down, his version of practicing was keyboard on the ground, headphones hooked up to it, and just, you know, big old muffs just hooked up to his ear. So fast forward to literally last night, I have built-in headphones into my glasses, right? And I'm practicing to the songs we're going to play tomorrow night. And my little son wakes up. I hear him crying. I thought my wife had him. No. He walked his little butt all the way to, you know, next to me. And he's like crying for my attention. I'm like, buddy, I'm sorry. I got like 7 more minutes of practice. You're going to literally have to wait 7 minutes. And he's like puts his head down in defeat. And I'm like, how about this? So I sit him up in the chair next to me. And I'm over here practicing while listening to the music in my ears. And I'm just practicing. And then all of a sudden, I just looked at him and I say, "You're never going to remember this, but you just reminded me of my childhood right now, watching my dad play his keyboard." And now, full circle, wow, I'm over here practicing in silence because my electric guitar is not plugged in. I'm literally doing the same thing as my dad. I'm practicing in silence, and I'm just running through the neck and just strumming at all the change ups, and I'm paying attention, and I'm just like, dude, this is so freaking crazy. Like full circle. Like I'm sort of reliving my dad's life, but with my version. Like it was so freaking crazy.
That's kind of a cool topic, you know, Alex. It kind of like brings it, you know, to like almost, you know, have you guys like noticed yourselves doing things that maybe your fathers did, you know, or do, right? And like good or bad, right? Like, hey, I do this, like, oh crap, right? Oh, no, I'm doing what he did all those years that I couldn't stand, or like, you know, it's like, oh wow, this is what he did, and now I'm following suit. You know, I don't know if there's
My brother and I are always calling each other out on that.
what's that?
My brother and I are always calling each other out. We're like,
Yes, yeah,
Nice.
Dad.
yeah,
I
yeah.
More often than not, it's linked to some cheesy joke or something.
Yeah, my brothers do that all the time. We actually, it's like one of our big inside jokes. I don't know why. We used to make fun of my dad because my dad was born. He's a little bit older. He's born in the 50s, or 1950. And whenever he gives a high five, for some reason, he doesn't just give a high five. He gives a high five and he grabs your hand.
nice.
And he grabs it and he shakes it. And me and my brothers are like, what the hell is this? Like, did they not know how to do high fives back in the day? Like, what is this? And then, we kind of all do it like as a joke now, like whenever we give each other high fives, like our brothers, and it's kind of like the joke. But I feel like almost like now it's kind of like serious now that we actually do it, but it started off as a joke kind of thing. But I think it's like now it's like, oh crap, my kid's probably going to be doing like the freaking dad not know how to do a high five. What the hell are they doing?
It's I think that's probably the most interesting part. Well, for me in the stage of being a dad, because with my stepdaughter, I missed like a lot of the early stuff. She didn't come into my life till she was, I think, 7, turning 8. But now with my youngest, it's kind of weird the way doing things with him triggers like you said, like you told your son he's not going to remember it, but here you are remembering an obscure moment of your dad, playing his keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do, like the first time I took my son fishing, I have like a very vivid like flashback memory of the very first time that I ever, threw a bobber in the water with my dad, or when, he first picked up a tool with me. I have a flashback to doing something with my dad. So it's kind of weird how you don't really remember those things until you catch yourself doing something in the same exact footsteps. And then it triggers all sorts of weird stuff that you never knew you'd never think, because people ask you questions all the time, right? Like, what was your favorite thing about kindergarten? You're like, I don't know. I don't even remember kindergarten. But here you are remembering, little obscure details. So it's kind of weird what triggers those memories.
Well, just you saying that, it reminded me of like, actually, my dad, we used to go crabbing all the time, not fishing. We used to go crabbing. But like, if we were just talking about before, like, oh, what'd you do? It's, I don't know. We didn't do anything, but like, no, we went crabbing a lot. But I think about it. So you said,
I'll tell you,
fishing.
A big part of my grieving process after my dad passed away, I mean, I took it super, super freaking hard. Way harder than like I ever would have thought I did. And so part of my journey and what I came across as I was trying to kind of deal with all that was, instead of looking back and remembering things in a bad light, not meaning it was a bad situation, but I didn't want to look back at things and all of a sudden just turn into a ball of mush and upset and ruin my day. So every time I would catch myself kind of falling upon a memory, I made it a point to kind of turn that into a positive. And that today still holds true. If I'm going through a tough spot in life, I try and find, a positive situation of my father overcoming something. And I kind of harness that energy myself to overcome whatever I'm going through. Or, if I'm working on the car, I have a flashback, of doing the same thing with my dad. So I try to turn those, I harness those memories to make them positive, so that every time I kind of had a memory about it, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't gonna, kind of tip me over the edge and ruin my day. And I passed that on to a couple people who have come back to me since and been like, you know what, like, I'm really glad you told me that's like your outlook on things, that, them passing away isn't necessarily a negative thing. There are tons of positives and there's tons of things you can pass forward, and how you look at those memories totally shapes your situation with kind of coping with it. So my 2 cents.
No, it's a good piece. It's a good piece of advice. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think a lot of times memories too, like with dads, like, and, I don't know if everybody here had brothers, sisters that were like close in age. Sometimes like things that maybe you're doing like with your parents or your dad, like you're also doing with your brother, or your sister. So like the memory could be almost like with them, right? Even though your parent was there, like, I think that could have been like me and my brother were close as anything. We were 2 years apart. We did absolutely everything together, like, from working together to playing sports together to, our first jobs were together. Then we were like, hey, let's go to college together. It was like a little everything. So many of our memories growing up, my dad was there, but I feel like the memory was probably like with my brother a lot too. But I think that's going to be kind of like instilled in. I just have bad memory with certain things too. I've realized over the years, like people be like, "Yeah, you don't remember this?" I'm like, "No." Like, like every Saturday for 3 years. I'm like, "Really?" I was playing Madden.
I don't remember this.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But I think with all those good ones and all the good memories, I think that comes a lot of times when there's bad memories too, or bad, right? Like fails as they call them. I don't know. Is anybody like, like the Father's Day fails? I mean, that's kind of how I started my episode today, right? It was the first Father's Day. Anybody have like any like?
I've no doubt I've got a couple, but I can't recall any specifics of it.
Okay.
I just know that I went through in my 20s. I mean, I was wasn't exactly the angel in the family. But nothing, no major specifics of it that come to mind.
Okay. I don't think I've had any Father's Day fails, but they're scrolling through the dad groups right around this time of year. There's always a bunch of posts about, guys, the wife did absolutely nothing for Father's Day. And then on the flip side, you've got the opposite of fails, right? You've got the dads that are posting that, my wife got me this brand new sports car, or, just something absolutely like absurd to where everyone's like, damn. You're like, I got some breakfast in bed and left alone for the rest of the day. And I thought I had it made. And then you see posts like that and you're like, oh, shoot. So,
yep.
Well, then you got to wonder if they're real or not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got to watch out.
And who actually got the sports car? Was it a joint bank account?
Was it strictly his money that paid for it, or where did it come from?
Oh my God.
What would your ideal Father's Day be?
Oh, mine? Let's see. It's fishing season now, so I would say I just want to be able to like chill at home and not have to do like anything. Like kids flipping out or want something, I just want my wife to be like, "Yeah, I got this," and like take care of it. I just have a lazy day around the house. I wouldn't mind being told to just take off and go fishing all day, because I take my son, but he's only interested in it for maybe 20, 30 minutes when I take him. And then the rest of the time is me trying to get a couple casts in before he has the absolute meltdown about the playground he can see off in the distance. So if I could just have the day to just go fish wherever I want, and I don't know, maybe at night roll the grill out and throw some meat on there or something. That's my ideal. Just as chillax as possible with zero responsibility for anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound too bad. Doesn't sound too bad.
I'll probably throw in like a mindless action movie or something as well, just so
exactly. I mean, like my wife asks me every year, she's like, "What do you want for Father's Day?" And it's the same thing with like Christmas and birthday. I'm like, I don't know. Like I really don't care. I mean, cook me some breakfast, that's great. Like I totally appreciate it. But really, it's just, if I could just have the whole day to myself to just do whatever. Like I don't have to say, hey, is it cool if you watch Emerson while I go do this?
The irony of it is, I think a whole lot of dads for Father's Day want to not be a father for a day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good point.
So I got a bit of a perfect Father's Day in the off chance my wife was listening. My perfect Father's Day would be just wake up late, like hopefully past 9 o'clock because my kids like to wake up early. Go to a breakfast diner right down the street from us. Go for a walk with the kids because they got so much freaking energy to burn. Come back home, hopefully take a nap. And after that, if I have just that top part of the day done exactly that way, the rest of the day, come up with whatever. I don't care. Like a cool, chill breakfast and just hang out with the kids. And then whatever they come up with, I really don't care. Like, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Sounds like everybody just wants to do very relaxing.
Yeah.
I
See,
might
you know,
even cut the
I-
lawn. I mean, it just depends how I'm feeling on Father's Day.
I would definitely not want to do. I would definitely not want to do the lawn on that. That I would. Mine's either relaxing and like barbecue because I love barbecuing and food. Now I'm not a great one,
Cool.
but just throwing a hot dog, burger, steak, whatever, simple and good food. But I like to entertain. I enjoy, but I don't want to have to like.
You don't
do it
have
all.
to clean up afterward.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I don't want to have to do that. But I wouldn't want her to have to do it. But I would just want it. I love having people over, hanging out, like whether it's family or friends, and like that. Like if it wasn't going to be just the chill, relaxed day, I would want to like have family and friends over, and we have like just like anything, like a party, like a Memorial Day or Labor Day, like barbecues like that. That's like my favorite thing to do. Like if I could do that every single day and just have like different groups of friends or family over every single day and never have to do a thing, that would be like the ultimate dream, I think, for me. It's simple.
Listening to everyone talk, none of us have actually mentioned any kind of gift or anything. It's all about doing nothing, chilling out, whatever. So if there's any mothers out there listening,
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not about the gifts, it really isn't. I mean, I don't know. The way I've always looked at life too is like if I needed something, I always just went and got it.
Yeah,
or
that's my problem.
Waited, right? Or wait until birthday, Christmas. Like it'll be new shoes, and it's like March. I'm like, Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
She's like, no, it's 9 months away. I'm like, it's close enough. It's fine. I'll wait until Christmas, right? But then if it's a bar, all right, I'll go and spend whatever. And if for like entertainment or I guess you could say a time, like memories, right? If we're talking about memories, right? I care more about the memory than I do about the item, I guess. And I think that's most dads, I guess, if that's kind of what we're talking about here, right?
My problem is too, so she'll ask me what gifts I want, and usually it's like an expensive tool or something. And so I'm not going to like put that pressure on her to figure out what it is or try and figure out what I want. And so that's why I'm in that boat of like, if there's something I really have my heart set on, I'll usually, go out and buy it myself beforehand. But I try not to put the pressure on her for like anything. So, because everybody's been there for Mother's Day too, right? Where you're like scrambling last minute to figure, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on her. So I if she wants to give me something, great. And she can give me whatever. I mean, she can give me socks. I need some socks right now. Everybody always talks about socks being a shitty gift, but I need some socks.
My favorite Father's Day gifts,
I have
actually.
so many crazy socks, man. Batman socks, Deadpool socks.
It was socks with my son's face on it.
Yeah. Christmas stocks me up for the whole year, so
Same here.
I love socks as a gift. But yeah, I don't need any crazy gifts. And it's whatever. If she gets me anything at all, it's the thought that counts. So, but keep
I
it
gotta
simple.
ask to the older dads with the kids that have gone through school and stuff like that. Is the Father's Day tie still a thing? I was thinking about this the other day. Right?
People still wear ties.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's right, because I was putting on a tie and I was sitting there and I'm going, I would so be the dad to wear that stupid tie that my son has to do at school and wear it so freaking proud. Like, I can't wait for that. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, they probably don't even do those Father's Day ties anymore.
Wait, is it a goofy tie? Like,
yeah, like,
like
they would do like a goofy tie with
shirt
like,
over there? Show us.
yeah, like,
Sylvester and
You haven't shown us your shirt yet.
oh, my
No,
shirt?
Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
You lost me.
There we go.
There we go. It's all fun and games till someone loses their wiener.
And now we're on the explicit list for you.
Very dad shirt.
Because he said wiener.
T-shirts have replaced the ties.
Wait, so what's the
That's-
tie thing?
Yeah, I don't think I've owned a tie since I was maybe 12. I had to get one for school or something like that.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever owned a tie
Wait,
as
so
an adult.
do they get you a tie, or you just wear a tie on Father's Day? How's that work?
It was like a thing, like in school, like where it was like where kids, like the teachers would do in elementary school, like, all right, and maybe it's a New York thing, I don't know, make like your dad a Father's Day gift, and it was always like, all right, let's make the dad a Father's Day tie, because every dad back in the day wore a tie, and it would be like, it'd be like the stupidest tie thing ever. It'd have like a reindeer antler on it with like an ornament, and like a light up globe, and it was like bright yellow, and it was always like no dads ever want to wear it to the office because they were embarrassed. And I was like, man, I would love to wear a tie like that. So I could, and then I was like, crap, I don't think they do that because nobody wears really ties anymore.
I made some really bad Mother's Day like school crafts, but I don't recall doing anything Father's Day specific. Maybe like a card.
Yeah, a card.
I don't remember my childhood.
Yeah. I'm gonna Google like funny, like Father's Day ties. You type that in, and there you go. Just go on Google, and
I'm gonna figure out where it originated.
Funny dad ties. There you go.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Insert advertisement here for Funny Dad.
Right, there you go. Can I say the name of the company?
Hey, do we get free ties?
I kind of need one.
We need a time to dad tie. That's what we need.
Look, see, it's got a baby's face on it and everything.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Jeez.
There's thousands.
No, I have
We're
a
doing
couple
that
I have a couple dad T-shirts. I don't wear them terribly often. That I think I've gotten for Father's Day.
My ex wife, she gave me when our firstborn was really young. She got him a T-shirt that said, it was like a onesie or something that said "I'm stupid" or "I'm with stupid," and she got me a shirt that said "I'm stupid."
Nice.
And she thought it was a joke, and I loved it.
That's great.
I wore that shirt for years everywhere, and she hated it because I would just be wearing the shirt out in public, and he wouldn't be wearing his shirt. So it's just I'm just walking around saying I'm
That's
stupid.
great.
Nice.
And
You gotta own it, man.
drove her
You gotta
nuts,
own
but,
it.
yeah.
Hence,
Yep. Oh, but it was awesome. People loved it.
except she didn't, right?
Everybody but
Nice.
her. Yes.
Hence
I love it when
you
a plan
started
backfires.
Yeah,
Hold
backfires.
on. Did everyone get their ideal Father's Day in? I know Luke did. Alex, did you go?
Yeah.
Joe, you win, I think. Chris, did you go? I think we got everyone in. Okay, I thought we missed somebody.
Yep.
Greg, Chris's was just don't lose a wiener when you're barbecuing.
Yeah, don't drop your wiener in the,
Yeah, that's
in
right.
the marshmallow fire.
I mean, that is a
great.
pretty good Father's Day. That
That
doesn't
is
happen.
great. That makes me think of the pictures where or the wives that post, and it'll be like when your child's with your father and they like fall down the stairs and they're like dad groups and everyone's like, that's hilarious, is he okay? And then it's like mom groups, they're getting like chastised, like, why would you let your kid by the stairs without themselves? And they're kind of depicting how like mom and dad groups are like, dads are just like roll with the punches, man, and sometimes you got to learn the hard way. And mom groups are just all about bashing you for anything child related.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, my wife was in one of those, I think, when we first had our son. And she was like, this is just, everybody's just so mean. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's not what the point of it was. Probably
crazy,
created to
man.
be.
Could you imagine
Yeah,
our lives if our parents were in those groups and we were like raised at that? I don't want to know. I mean, some of that, not to get off topic of Father's Day, but I think some of that is why the world is shifting the way it is. Just because, I mean, I was raised, you got told not to do something once, even if it was dangerous. And if you did it, dad just looks over and be like, well, I told you not to do it. How do you feel now? And I mean, I still subscribe to that myself with my son. I'm all about like, don't do that, it's gonna hurt. And then I'll just sit there and watch him. And my wife's the other way around. She'd rather like bubble wrap all the furniture and stuff. I mean, he's past that stage now, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, it's kind of funny the difference between mom and dad group. There's a little bit of that in some of the dad groups. You'll get the dads that subscribe to that as well, but for the most part, people are like, kids got to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
do what?
Got to toughen them up.
Yeah,
it's rough world out
it
there.
is for sure. That's what scares me, man. I just want him to know failure by the time it hits him, so that you know he's prepared for it, and he's not just, it doesn't rock his world when something finally just throws a giant wrench in the plans. That's my main goal as a dad. So
yeah, I've talked a lot with my kids with both my boys about fail fast, be willing to fail. I think a lot of times people don't try. They don't want to hang themselves out there enough because they're afraid of failure. And I think it's very important that we learn to fail so that we can do it correctly, right? You can learn from it and move on and go and attack it better the next time. But there's for some reason, it seems like there's a lot of our culture right now that is they avoid situations where they could possibly fail. And I think that's something that can become very unhealthy, because you never stretch yourself and learn from your failures and just learn how to deal with them.
It's also developing that coping mechanism, right? We saw it a little with our daughter. She lived with my wife's mom for the better part of her early childhood, and she kind of protected her and kind of helicoptered it and had her going to church and stuff. And when she got older, she like you said, she wasn't taught to, push yourself to the limit of failure or go out on extremes and try things just so you can learn how to get past it. And so when she started hitting that kind of stuff as a teenager where things weren't going her way, it was just kind of like a brick wall for her. And it was a real struggle for us to try and get her back up to speed with how to use that coping mechanism, how to cope and get past things. And because she's a dweller, so when something went wrong, she would just fixate on what went wrong instead of fixating, on the light at the end of the tunnel, because there's always a way to get out of whatever crap situation you're in. But if you're not set up and you haven't learned how to use that coping mechanism, it can be a nightmare.
Yep.
Big time.
Yep, it can.
So,
but it's a real skill set. People have to know how to process that failure, right? You want to think about it and really honestly think about what you can take away and learn from it, and then move past it. Don't even think about it again. Think about it good. And
I think that's like it's somebody that the dad groups are. It's like somebody posting something like that. Even as a dad, right? Like we're talking about teaching our kids that, but it's still, if you don't learn it as a kid, you're not gonna, unless you decide to learn it or read a book, right, or self-develop. It's still tough to get past that as an adult because you're shaped that way. Which so many of the dad posts, it's the same thing. They do. People will post that and they can't get past something, and then you have half the dads ripping them apart, right? And then the other half of dads giving them the advice. Hey, this is what I did. This is what you got to do. Here's a link. Here's this. Go do this. Which I think is pretty cool. I don't comment on most of the stuff.
I was gonna say I fly on the wall, and some of those are really cringy, and you are kind of like, dude, like just get your shit together and keep moving.
Yeah.
But and then you totally have night and day. It's either guys giving them a way to get through it, and the other half is just like, how the hell do you not know how to do this on your own, or how to give yourself direction? So yeah, I kind of take the fly on the wall approach. I like to read it because I like to read the stuff that some guys have some really interesting outlooks on things that kind of open your minds. Yeah. But yeah, I just fly on the wall with those posts because I'd probably be on the side of somebody that makes a jackass comment if I provided any actual contribution. So
yeah.
Sounds like I was a pretty brutal man.
Yeah. Some of them are. You know,
For
I think one of the cool ones are though, like you do see people like giving advice on, you know, maybe it's like wood shop stuff. Like somebody's like, hey, I tried doing this, or hey, I had a contractor come over, and it's like, hey, and you do see people actually doing that. And like that's like I like that stuff because I am not handy at all.
be careful what you see.
Yeah,
There's some cringy things DIY that go on in those groups, and I'm just like, man,
Yes,
I don't know how you let your family sleep in that house.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
It's,
and I saw something with a roof, I think, the other day, and I was like, doesn't look so bad to me. And then I was reading some of the comments, and I'm like, oh god, I'll never try to fix that part of the roof then. So
Yeah.
it's fine. You know, like, but that was that's like something I wish I learned. I think more as a kid, like I had a hobby like that, like Nick, like you're big into that. I wish I had hobbies. You know, I think that all dads
never
have
too
hobbies.
old to get into it, man.
No, it's not. It's just something I have not done yet. That's what I like to say.
Yeah,
Not yet,
there you go.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think hobbies, I like hearing different dads' hobbies. Like Alex, you were talking about music before. I know that's like a big thing for my dad. He'll go in his little office area, grab his guitar, and you know play the Beatles for like a half hour or something. You know, mess around with that. And I'm not musically inclined, so that didn't happen. You know, for me. But I think that's like cool stuff. You know, the hobbies of our dads and seeing if we have it or not.
Yeah.
You know.
I got barely any hobbies, man. I just read.
That's a hobby.
Okay.
That's still a hobby.
But did you?
I know.
Yeah.
I don't have
Reading is quickly becoming a lost art, man.
Mm.
Yeah,
You're right.
woodwork or building shit or anything like that. I don't. It's just not been a part of my life, kind of thing.
Was your dad a reader or no? Or did you read? You know, is that something?
He was a big reader. I was definitely raised on the DIY side of things. Don't do it yourself. My skills are not there. I'd love to have them. Like I see shit that the guys build and create, and like, man, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
But have the patience or the time to dedicate to mastering that craft.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say we have saved a significant amount of money by me being able to do a lot of stuff around the house. And some of it I learned from my dad, and some of it I learned like I didn't when he was doing like home renovation stuff, I was probably on the too younger of a side to really watch him, but I could see him working and things like that. So that kind of instilled in me this need to work with my hands and understanding that it's important, to the point where I became an adult. If I needed to do something that I hadn't seen him do, I at least had the confidence to go out and research that skill and either get myself to a place where I could say, yeah, I think this is something I can tackle, or, hire a pro. But it all just kind of stems from me observing him being so hands-on. But it's saved us. I don't even want to guesstimate how much money it's saved us. I mean, we've done everything from soup to nuts in this house, from the kitchen to the bathrooms, and I mean, you guys can guesstimate what those things cost if you hire a contractor. So it's kind of awesome to have those skills. And I know a lot of dads are envious when they see posts like that, and then it is tough to get started later in life, because a lot of the tools I have are hand-me-down tools that I wouldn't have bought on my own. I just wouldn't have the money to buy them. So, and it's like,
that's a big investment. The whole tool side.
I mean, if you talk with any guy that has a massive tool collection or works with tools a lot, you build it. Alex probably knows on the mechanic side, you build it up over time, right? Because that stuff's not cheap, and you buy things out of necessity when you get to a point where you're just like, man, the stuff I have is not going to get this done.
That tape's not going to handle this job.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of amass a collection of tools over time. And I think that's a cool tradition, is just, I remember losing my dad's tools as a kid. He'd loan me one, and I don't know. And then there's the whole thing where as a kid, I was fascinated with taking stuff apart. I feel like every kid goes through that at some point, but I'd get my dad's tools and I'd just take stuff apart. I'd take his drill apart, and then he'd come like, "Where the hell's my drill at?" It's like 50 pieces on the floor. I have no clue how to put it back together, right? But I didn't really get too yelled at for those kind of things because he understood why I was doing it. I was trying to be like him and work with tools. I just wasn't doing it the right way, kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's that's definitely something I try to pass on to my youngest. Just let him play with whatever. And I did some of it with my daughter, like when we were doing trim around the house, I let her use the nail gun, and she thought that was pretty cool using the nail gun. So. And she just got her first car, so I'm sure at some point I'll, teach her how to change the tires, change the oil and stuff.
That's got to be a scary thing. First car.
Yeah. She's in Roanoke, Virginia right now, which is west of us, with her grandma. But they bought her she found an old Toyota Celica. And it's super old, but it's the perfect first car for a kid, right? I mean, that's how I would want it. I drove a beater for my first car, my dad's old hand-me-down Jeep. I just think every kid needs to start with a absolute garbage car that you're not sure if it's going to start. It needs something replaced on it every other week. I mean, that's just prime opportunity to learn not only about maintenance, but appreciating things. So, but yeah, that's definitely kind of scary for us.
Yeah, I think the woodworking is something that we have in common. I've been doing that for quite a few years now, but I think my hobby is collecting hobbies. I mean, it's crazy. I have way too many hobbies. I've got woodworking, I go snowboarding. I've raised reptiles since I was like 5.
Nice.
Where I'd actually go out and catch snakes and stuff like that, bring them home. And I think when I was 12, my mom and dad bought me my first python as a birthday present. And then later on, I don't think my mom ever forgave my dad, but he wanted to kind of help me out with the hobby. And we went out one day to buy a small snake and came back with an 11-foot python that was weighed about 45 pounds.
Wow.
Ended up with its own room in the house.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I played saxophone, bass guitar, electric guitar. The latest stupid hobbies that I picked up was trying to help. My son had some gastrointestinal issues as well, and started growing microgreens just to help get him some roughage basically in his diet. He doesn't like vegetables, and they're real high and super highly nutritious. And got into that. Now I've got 18 trays of microgreens growing downstairs, and that now is expanded into growing gourmet mushrooms as a side hobby. And it's just stupid. It's unbelievable, but but I love it. That's what I'll end up doing probably on Father's Day is maybe hang out hang out and have some breakfast and stuff like that, and then probably piddle with one of my 10 different hobbies.
Yeah, with the greens and the mushrooms. Sounds like a fun father.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
So I guess mine is more or less related to what you both, Nick and Chris. One of the weird things that my dad kind of passed on to me was maintaining your car. And we didn't grow up with a lot of money. My dad was not from this country, so I'm first generation, born in the U.S. kind of guy. So my dad had a weird ladder to climb and weird trajectory in life, right? So I guess what I'm saying is he taught me how to work on cars. He wasn't a mechanic, it wasn't his thing. He kind of just did it out of necessity because we really couldn't afford the newest cars and all that good stuff. We bought what we could afford, and we kind of stayed in that lane until we could do a little bit better. But my dad was always trying to keep his cars on the road, and he would do his very best until he had to throw in the towel and call a mechanic to help him out. So I kind of picked that up from my dad, just working on cars. It wasn't a foreign subject to me. So again, first car, here comes a beater that I have to keep on the road. Same thing. I have to, use his tools, which were incomplete and a mix and match of God knows what he was thinking. Like his approach to life mechanically versus mine is drastically different. Like he would have like a little I don't know if you guys would even know what I'm talking about. A little 3/8 ratchet, like maybe this long, or maybe half-inch ratchet, maybe that long, and he would stick a metal pipe just to be able to crank that sucker
the old
up,
helper bar,
just to get parts off.
That's a knuckle knocker right there.
So I have specific tools, for that purpose. So I have a much longer ratchet, or I have an impact tool that I can use to get these jobs done much, much faster. So that's one hobby that I picked up, and I forgot what my other one was. I should have written it down, but the other thing that I kind of still do to this day, back to music. So to this day, I've been playing guitar. My dad was not necessarily supportive of like me getting into music. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. It just wasn't something he wanted me to do, because he was out of that scene, and he just, I don't know if he didn't want me to be. I really don't know his reasoning, but I know when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I was watching TV with him, and he was just channel surfing, and here comes a video of Carlos Santana playing guitar, and it blew my mind just to watch this dude play guitar. Never knew who he was, never heard of him before, and this is like 90s, Carlos Santana, and he's over there just making that guitar literally cry and just playing it in a way that I had never seen before. And I told my dad, I want that guitar, not knowing anything about guitars, and I didn't know what brand guitar it was. I just know it looked cool and it sounded amazing. Little did I know that involves a $2,000 to $3,000, maybe $5,000 guitar plus a collection of pedals to make that guitar sound, the way that it did. I had no idea, but I'm just like, I want that. That's what I want. And again, to this day, here I am, spending hundreds of dollars on guitar parts just to get this guitar to sound a little bit better, to sound a little bit heavier, to play a little bit crazier. You know what I mean? And it's all this tweaking. And from my childhood, I still skateboard. Like, it doesn't look like it because I'm like not in shape of doing stuff like that. I don't do tricks, but I still skateboard to this day.
That's awesome. I skateboarded in like third grade for like a week, and then I realized I was not going to be good very quickly.
It's one thing that I want to pass down to my kids. So I have two skateboards that are one's a penny board, one is a stereo skateboard, which is the same size. And it's one thing that my wife is just adamant about me teaching my kids. She's like, I want you to teach these kids how to skateboard. And I said, say no more. I'm definitely going to freaking do it. Because it's a weird skill to have. It's like such a weird skill to have that like everybody thinks is cool, but it's like, it's not that important to have.
Yeah.
Make sure your insurance is all good.
I have a buddy who fell off of his longboard and broke both of his elbows and was in casts. And there's certain things that you learn in life that you can't do, that you need help with when you have both elbows broken. It's not very fun to deal with.
Yeah.
I can imagine, bud.
Yeah, I think those were kind of like my hobbies, as even now, like kids. It was not the skateboarding aspect, but like skateboarding is called extreme sports, right? I was always a sports fan. I think that's like it's like my main hobby now. It's sports. It's mainly football. I mean, I was big into soccer. I ran a soccer academy, here in New York for a little while, and coached at the high school level, and kind of thought I was going to keep going and do college and then kind of transition life. But sports is like that's like my fantasy football. I'm like that, that typical fantasy football guy. Now it's like not that typical fantasy football dad. I mean, I've been doing fantasy football since I was 9, right? So since 1998, because I had an older brother that was big into it, and they started and brought us in. So it's been 25 years. So to think about, I've been doing it now, and I think that'll be really cool. Like when my son gets into it, and I can kind of share. Like I know some people are like, that's the stupidest hobby, but like for me, I'm like, yeah, like he's throwing the football, he's throwing the basketball. Like I can't wait to, and he's going to be taller than me because my wife's a little bit taller than I am. She's got that Polish gene in her. And it's going to be fun when he's like 15, 16. He could probably dunk a basketball, and I'm going to have to, jump check him a little bit or something. But, that'll be super fun. What's that?
I said, show him what's up.
That's it. So hopefully, he doesn't get too tall that I can't compete, but I definitely want him to be taller so we could turn that hobby maybe into something else for him.
Nice.
We'll see.
Nice.
We'll see.
All right, fellas. Well, I think it's about that time. Thanks, everybody, for checking in with us, checking out this special Father's Day episode. I think we went on some tangents on this one, but I mean, we're unscripted, guys, so that's gonna happen. That's just what we're about. We roll with the feeling of the room, guys. So again, thank you for tuning in. Check out the Time to Dad Facebook group. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.